For decades, advertisers ingrained our cultural consciousness with a consumerist lifestyle obsession. They taught us to tie our identities into brands. They taught us to base our self-worth off of how many material goods we could accrue within this core of global imperialism that we live in, where those goods are produced off of the violence and exploitation enacted against the victims of neocolonialism. Then in 2008, when the contradictions of this global capitalist system came to a head and the economy drastically contracted, the social media companies built an updated version of this consumerist lifestyle obsession in this new environment where a lot of people found themselves terminally without access to the kinds of financial resources that they had prior to the crash, and unable to live up to this consumerist ideal of material prosperity. These companies allowed us to pretend like we were rich, pretend like we were totally carefree, and build up these online personas for ourselves so that we could retreat further into this narcissistic delusion that that consumerism created for us. So it functioned as a replacement for the sense of decadence that imperialism afforded us in more prosperous times. And of course, when I say prosperous, that's relative, because under neoliberalism especially, and under capitalism in general, there's always been people, even within the core of global imperialism, who've been shortchanged. So this lifestyle obsession has always been based in illusion, but more and more, as late-stage capitalism progresses and as our economic conditions grow more dire, as things grow more scarce amid austerity, privatization, wage cuts, manufactured unemployment, as these hardships grow more severe, we as a culture are retreating further and further into this delusion that they have created for us, where we try to live up to this vapid standard, this narcissistic standard that the consumerist mentality has constructed. So in this last year, as the post-2008 economic contraction has accelerated with the pandemic and the subsequent economic shockwaves and the financial crisis that's going along with these shockwaves, the lifestyle obsession is becoming even more doubled down, you could say, as this so-called Great Reset and the so-called Fourth Industrial Revolution are implemented, and as the increasingly monopolistic big tech companies are grabbing up more of the wealth, they're consolidating more of the job market into their hands as the rest of the job market dwindles, and they're integrating more of their technologies into our daily lives, making themselves even more hegemonic and more able to micro-target us with advertisements. And while we're being subjected to this furthering of the hegemony of big tech, of surveillance capitalism, as we become even ever more exploited by this late-stage capitalist incarnation of the consumerist lifestyle obsession, the cultural aspect of it is becoming ever more pronounced. We're seeing the furthering of a toxic online culture that encourages people to one-up each other and to start drama, manufacture outrage, all to get clout. And behind this electronic hallucination, ultimately, the only people who are benefiting from it are the tech CEOs who've been collectively getting hundreds of billions of dollars richer during this last year, while tens of millions around the world have slipped into extreme poverty. This is the hidden reality behind this electronic hallucination that we all navigate, and that's why I've decided not to be emotionally invested in where I fare within this game that surveillance capitalism has created for me. Instead, I'm emotionally invested in what I can do to participate in the advancement of a revolution against U.S. imperialism. What I'm purely focused on these days is furthering my education in Marxist theory and military theory, and figuring out how I can build a revolutionary cadre where I live. I'm focused on fulfilling my role, the role that I can fit within in this great global project to bring down U.S. NATO imperialism. Just wanted to make a few points about the historical context of surveillance capitalism, of our modern social media culture, where it's headed, and what we can do to free ourselves from it, which I think is an emotional task. We need to emotionally free ourselves from it so that we can ultimately work to overthrow this system that perpetuates it and its toxic aspects.